working, listening, working session, as it relates to tent distribution in Durham. We thank you for your attendance today. With the opportunity to spend some time talking about, what we discussed and gathered since our last gathering. And I'm sure you McCullough, Chair, still planning. I'm sorry. Without further ado, I'm gonna open the floor and pass things over to our facilitator, Dr. Darrow.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all so much for being here, and thanks to all those who are online. I see a lot of familiar names and familiar faces. It is really truly an honor to be here, to collaborate with you and to learn alongside you from you. As I said before, I'm your student. I listen to everyone, and facilitating this process will take some time. It will take some time because policies are not developed overnight. We need to really drill down and address the core issues and hear everyone and process accordingly and ensure that the policy is grounded in sound research.
Laura, can you move your mic a little bit closer? 'Cause we're getting. Y'all,
I can speak up.
okay. Yeah, the folks online are having a difficulty.
Right here. So the first we're gonna start with Ms. McCullough's, just a brief reminder to orient us to why we're here and just the importance of the issue that we are addressing, which is developing a tent policy with the community voice in mind.
Meet yours.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure it out.
No. Want me?
Go to the next one. Next one. Yeah. Okay. So based on our listening session, that was hosted by myself, Rachel Leventhal, Ms. Colleen Herbert, and the chair of the Policy and Planning Committee, Sharita McCollins. There were 75 registrants, so 75 participants. And the poll responses, which is separate from the email responses, we had 33 participants. And 19 that came in addition to that via email. So those poll responses we will address today. And then the discussion responses we'll address a little later on. Right now, I will go through the poll responses. So based on the responses provided, here's the breakdown. So 32 were in favor of tent distribution, while only 1 was against it. Thanks. So question 2 is, what reasons determine your choice? The response is overwhelmingly supported tent as a necessary, albeit temporary measure to address immediate needs of unhoused individuals. Many emphasize that while tents are not a permanent solution, they are crucial for survival and dignity until more comprehensive housing solutions can be implemented. Based on the responses provided, I've summarized the participants' choice for tent distribution into 4 main categories. Here's a quadrant-based presentation of the responses. Immediate shelter and safety. Tents provide essential shelter from the elements, life-saving intervention, especially during extreme weather, offers privacy and a sense of place for unhoused individuals, protects people from wind, rain, and cold. So those are the basic needs. Lack of alternatives, insufficient shelter beds and affordable housing options, long wait lists for existing shelters. Not all individuals are comfortable with or suited for congregate shelters. Tents serve as a temporary solution while waiting for better options. Dignity and autonomy allows for independent living until better options are available, provides a choice for those who can't or won't use traditional shelters, respects the dignity and intrinsic worth of each human being, offers a sense of home and privacy, harm reduction and practicality, reduces harm for those who cannot access current shelter offerings, more practical than sleeping exposed on the street, helps in connecting unhoused individuals with services, and serves as a stopgap measure while working on long-term solutions. So this is the response for question 2, which is part 2 of question 1, question 3. And I'm just gonna go through them initially before we discuss. So question 3 was, how does tent distribution fit within our continuum? And I did see a question further to that. Someone was saying they didn't quite understand what continuum is. So I just want to make sure that that is addressed today. And Ms. McCullers will address that later on. So temporary solution, we're saying that again, a stopgap temporary resource, very temporary for supportive housing. Given lack of shelter capacity, tents can provide a sense of safety and privacy for folks while waiting for permanent housing. They should be a temporary solution. It is a temporary yet an emergency form of housing until the issue can be addressed. providing immediate resources to people who are in extremely vulnerable circumstances while we work towards more sustainable housing, and meeting immediate needs. Meeting the needs of our people should be most important. It fits in terms of serving the unsheltered population, providing tents do not stop individuals from being unhoused. It does not affect the population of the unhoused here in Durham, but it will provide a need, which is shelter, to help the clients that are unsheltered and do not have a car or tent, providing housing that meets the needs of our neighbors. It is another option. So it's part of a broader strategy. Tent should be part of a continuum that includes sanctioned encampment space, day centers, pallet communities, congregate shelters, case management, single residency occupancy units, and independent housing. It helps with people engaging with community providers to receive services. Tents should not be a long-term solution, but a short-term strategy that is part of a larger community-wide strategy. Tent distribution should be allowed within the continuum, regardless of whether someone is attached to a program or services. Tents can be the first step in a journey towards housing, meeting people where they are at and where they are ready to be. Meeting a basic need like providing a tent to protect from the elements and provide a little more dignity can build trust and rapport and help keep people safer until we have shelter, housing, or they are ready for the next step. Critical perspective. So the question, how does tent distribution fit within the continuum? It doesn't. This is the critical perspective. We need to figure out what resources are available right now and use those resources right now to address the issues of unsheltered homelessness. Tents are not needed. Community collaboration with elected officials, city and county, is the needle needs to move towards permanent solutions and not temporary ones when Durham is resource rich. Tent distribution should only be done during extreme weather as a life-saving measure combined with outreach to connect those unsheltered residents to resources for obtaining permanent housing. They are a stopgap solution. They need to be protected until the state and federal levels of government return resources for communities to fully address homelessness. And the final question, what do you consider important to include in a tent distribution policy? Based on the participants' responses, a comprehensive tent distribution policy should include the following key elements. Keep in mind, this includes feedback from all 33 participants. Designated spaces. Establish a list of approved sites where tent camping is accessible. Create designated safe areas to prevent tents from being set up in local park or on private property without authorization. Collaborate with city officials to protect encampments from conflicts with law enforcement and provide incentives for landowners to participate in offering safe camping locations. Cleanup and sanitation. Implement a system for trash removal and meal cleanup. Ensure access to essential amenities such as restrooms, water, and other basic necessities. Encourage tent recipients to maintain clean areas and promote cleanliness among neighbors. Provide education on how to live outside responsibly, including respect for oneself and others. Resource connection. Still the same question, continue. Ensure distributed tents are connected to the broader homeless support system. Offer supportive services to help individuals move towards accessing permanent housing. Provide information on best practices for using and carrying tents. Include street outreach services as part of the distribution. Support organization contact. Facilitate regular check-ins and supervision to ensure safety and address ongoing needs. Establish a system for tracking tent distribution and recipients. create a grievance policy for individuals who feel their tents were improperly removed, and develop an on-shelter bill of rights and provide an accessible version of the encampment policy for all reading levels. Additional considerations: minimize barriers and requirements for tent distribution. Acknowledge that tents are not a long-term solution, but a necessary life-saving intervention. Provide alternatives during extreme weather conditions. Ensure protection of and respect for the lives and property of unsheltered persons. Consider implementing a storage system for abandoned tents and belongings. By incorporating these elements, the tent distribution policy can address the immediate needs of unhoused individuals while working towards more permanent solutions and maintaining community safety and cleanliness. So these are the 4 questions. What I just presented to you, those are a summary of all feedback, comprehensive of the 33. We have 16 that were emailed, which needs further analysis as well. However, that is a part of our work today to ensure that we look at all of these responses. I have de-identified your email responses because the polls are anonymous. So I have de-identified the email responses as well. What it's important for us to then collate all of this. If you need to know that and see that your response was factored in and considered, if you can come to me and ask me for your number. There's a name, your name is associated with a number. So if you see that on the list, you know, response number 3, and you read through all of these and go, okay, I did not say this, where's my response? I'll give you your number and you can read through it. In any case, I'll give you all your number, those that are online and here, so that you can then verify that your response is here, okay? All right, I'll start again. I will give you your number later on and you can cross-reference with your response. So let's go to the next. We can go back then, so we can stay on the question. All right, so those responses came from, is that the, can you go?
To the, go back,
Yeah, no, go forward,
go forward.
because I don't see the slides that I'm. That's the one that was on.
I'll go back to it.
Check because I have some slides. Okay. So, we have some work to do today. What is like for all of you here, if you can, again, I'm new to this process, and I'm just gonna ask you, if we wanna have a breakout session, if you can break out according to the organization or the services that you represent. I want to do a brief activity with you all. We can do, Ms. Herbert, for those online, we can have them put their responses in the chat.
Okay.
So I'm not sure who you're with, just feel free to move over to anyone from your organization, because what I'm gonna do next is just ask you to share with everyone in the room. Some of you may know each other, you may all know each other, but for me, I'd like to get an understanding of who's here, the organizations you represent, and the services that you provide. So if you just look around and then we'll do a sort of a group introduction and service introduction. Can we do breakout rooms on this one? Okay, perfect.
So
So they can do breakout rooms according to the organization that they represent or what services they offer.
okay. Then I can create 1, 2, or 2 breakout rooms.
It depends on how many people
How
are.
will I know what organization?
Just
They
two.
could rename, if they could rename.
I need them to be from whatever organization they're from. So if it's one of them and they have a group here, then they can just be in a separate room because they can respond.
You see?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, good. So she'll help me
Yes.
create the breakouts. Just real quick.
Oh, this is very difficult.
For the, there is.
Unless they can listen in and make
Well,
comments,
what I was gonna say is,
if that's gonna be easier.
they can rename themselves for their organization, include their
Oh, that'd
organization.
be,
Yeah,
yes,
and so if they
Okay.
do that,
in their name.
if you
But what
tell them,
But what I'm saying is that, so like the nieces with hard. That table back there. So it's gonna be harder to do it that way, because they're not all just straight
Okay.
one.
For those that are online, they will be listening in and making contributions when their group presents. So if someone from Heart is here, when you're presenting, if they have something they would like to add, we'll do it that way. Okay? Is that clear for everybody? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna ask those that are here, if you can introduce the organization that you're from and introduce yourself. We can start. Anyone, let's go ahead.
so we've done the
Anyone can
PowerPoint.
start.
So do we want to just go to the agenda?
We will start.
This is our coordinated.
Yeah.
Julia, this is an ASAP number.
But what I'm saying is, if they rename and put their organization, I can group them.
Can you type it in? Oh, so he's already put his in.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, probably.
I'm sorry.
Everyone else, Durham Public Schools.
Steve Williams, City Manager's Office, and I have oversight of Durham. Kevin, Department of General Services, let's see.
I'm Ryan Smith, a bunch of us, with community safety that runs the HEART program.
Rename. Because that's how they go.
Oh, now it's straight on the clinician department.
To
Colin Davis with Community Development.
include your organization.
Thank you all. If you all can each take out a piece of paper or just flip over the agenda that you have. And for those that are online, I'm just gonna ask you to type your response in the comment section. Now I have an interesting question for you. What is your love language?
We write that in.
Yes. Choose 2 words. What is your love language? For me, my love language is music and cooking. I'll give you 3. Think about it for a second. What is your love language? What is it that speaks to your spirit? What is it that gives you energy? What is it that gives you purpose? What is it that you would wake up in the morning and go and do even if you weren't getting paid for? What is it? And I will ask you to share because there's a method to the madness. Think about it for a second. For me, I get joy from cooking, from communal activities, from sharing food. Music gives me energy, lifts my spirit. And depends on what you listen to, can definitely your spirit, right? But use the way I like to, it lifts my spirit. And action is, I like to do things to make people feel better. So think about it. Again, this is intended for you to go inward because we often think of everybody and we give and we pour and we often pour from an empty cup. So we need to think about things that sustain us, that keep us filled up. But there's also another reason for this. Let me know when you're all finished. Two words, not sentence, two words. Caring food, okay. They'll need to read off, I'll ask you to read off. So what we'll do, we'll start by reading off those who've already put their responses up online. Well, I can read them off. If you scroll, I'll read them off because I'm saying. There you
Go up. Oh, yeah, there it is. She was there. That was
Okay,
it.
right there.
Verbal.
Okay, Anise, verbal affirmation. Ren, Morgan, quality time. Stephen, physical touch, acts of service. Sharing food, Chelsea. Jeanette, acts of service. Tracy, acts of service. I want to make sure I'm reading everybody's.
Sharing
Can you
books.
scroll up just a little bit? Can you?
Chris nodded.
Sharing, okay, Chris. Sharing books is my love language. Nicole, giving back. Empathetic and empowering. Okay, they led the way. Let's start at this table. Okay.
Love to make the company's active service in my love language.
That's the right.
Yes, that's mine.
Being loud, being loud about what your love language is.
I wrote the love languages on the love languages on the board.
Yes, from the book, my love languages are words of affirmation and physical touch.
Mine is quality time.
Music and food, but more specifically, piano and eating. Mine are words of affirmation and acts of service.
Acts of kindness. Words of affirmation and physical touch. I love a good hug.
Acts of service.
Quality time.
Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation and playing games.
Acts of service.
Physical touch. Yes. What did you have? Acts of service, quality time, I do enjoy that. Okay.
Acts of service and words of affirmation. Acts of service, eating really good food and nature.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I am a, act of service first and then a affirmation person.
Say it loud enough. Thank you.
Definitely, acts of service and quality time.
Yeah. And for me, it would be acts of service. Oh, so she has a mic.
Thank you all so much for being vulnerable. You all are all pouring into others. You're constantly pouring into others, and they're all in these various positions, you know, empathetic, you're caring, you're giving, you're, you know, and finding that balance is really, really important. Ensuring that you're filling your cup is so important. It's not by accident that you're here to participate in this, to ensure that those that are on the threshold of, society who are on the margins are considered. And oftentimes we feel like we're spinning our wheels. But I just want to assure you that when we work collaboratively, we can really make a tremendous difference for people in our community. And we're here for the right reasons. We're all here for the purpose of ensuring that the unhoused are not only housed, but adequately housed until we can get to that gold standard. And one of the things that we need to also look at is that we will not accomplish everything today or even in 6 months, but we need to have a long-term vision of what this could look like realistically within the resources that we have, and ensuring that resources are adequate and directional where it's intended to be, and that we do hold leadership accountable in all areas. I want to ask you a question, and those who are online, I would like for you to respond in the comments. If we remove tents from the street, if we remove tents from individuals who are receiving it, if we stop giving tents to individuals in the street, what happens to your organization? What happens to the services that you provide? I'd like for you to think about that. Because before we get to policy, I feel like the root of the challenges that we face and the conflicts, that internal and external conflicts among each other, possibly, as well as internally, it comes down to what is it that we will do. So I want us to just reflect on that for a minute. Your organization, if you provide tent, what happens to your organization? What happens to the funding for your organization? If you provide food, let's say there is a gold standard and there is an entire community built in to take care of this need for our unhoused neighbors. What happens to your program, right? I want you to envision it. Does it just gets dismantled, or can you see a relocation? Just brainstorming. What does that do to you as a giving individual, right? What does that do to you? How does that impact your altruism? How does that impact how you feel at the end of the day when you are not able to do that thing that you do every day that fills you up?
That's what, talking more in groups.
Yes. So for your, I just want you to just reflect on that for a second, because it's so important that we not only hold space for others, but we hold space for ourselves, and that we are honest with ourselves. And if you're ready, you can start typing your answers, your responses. Not being answers, it's about you reflecting. So when I wake up in the morning and my organization, there's no reason for me to go to that place to distribute to these individuals. What does that do to me? What does that do to my purpose? And we contextualize this. I want to be clear that we're not removing the tents and taking it away from the individuals, I want you to imagine that that service that you're providing every day is no longer there. Those people, those unhoused individuals in the street are no longer in the street. They're in a building with bedroom and showers and everything they need. But your reason for waking up every day shifts. So if you are ready to share, just go right ahead. Don't feel rushed. We'll get to it.
Your message in the chat, somebody answered.
Tracy.
So
Tracy.
Tracy says we would lose sight of the humanity of others and that housing is a human right for all. It is a lack of compassion for other human beings and addressing their basic needs. And I believe I clarified. We're not removing tents and leaving the individuals in the street unhoused. We are envisioning a gold standard. One that I have conceptualized, not that it's in place, but in terms of them being removed and having everything they need in a community that's self-sufficient. What happens to you? I want you to go inside.
Um, no, it's okay. That statement you made my heart melt. So when that happens, I will start a new chapter in my book of life and find another way to help people heal. Because it's not only impacting Durham, it's impacting everybody in the world. So I would just shift and figure out how I can continue to help people elevate and heal.
That's a follow-up question. Can you foresee yourself as a part of that community?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, when you shared about the building and people having everything that they need, I saw myself there providing therapeutic services, providing psychotherapy, helping the women there, and partners with birthing people, because I'm a doula. So there's many spaces in which we can continue to educate and uplift and make sure that people have their basic needs. And just tapping into that and making people feel seen and heard and whole. So, I love that community.
Piggybacking off of that, I think what you're describing is the point at which healing can begin. When I'm focused on survival, because I don't know when my next meal is going to come from or where I'm going to lay my head tonight, I don't have that opportunity to turn inward and begin my healing. And that's the whole premise of housing first, right? That once I get into some stability, then I can begin to go through a process of healing. You know, the calls that we go to every day, we go to so many trespass calls because people don't have anywhere to go. And the answer is leave here. I can't tell you where you can go, but you have to leave here. That our departmentally, our call types would shift. It would be a lot more about the healing work to help people thrive and less about the survival work of just trying to make sure people make it to the next day.
We have multiple responses, and the first being that the overall impact would be positive. That is, if they are rehoused. The second would be, we become a motivational model and teaching continuum. We will have ended homelessness, and by having abundant services able to support the most vulnerable neighbors, and the shift to providing self-sufficiency and supportive services.
May I, challenge you for a moment, for the whole group, Will we have ended homelessness? Or we have shifted homelessness? Are we then the ones homeless? Where do we face the first?
Can you say more?
If the ideal, the gold standard is in place, and they're all housed, we are the ones that are homeless.
Without purpose.
Without them.
That's just it.
I'm just for reflection purposes. Yes. Just for reflection purposes.
Oh, we can.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I don't think we'll be without purpose, I think our purpose will shift.
right.
The goal is, we're never gonna, there's always gonna be an inflow. There's no way to stop it. Children are going to age out of the foster system. Relationships are gonna end, jobs are gonna end. But if we have adequate resources in place, we will be ready to address it at an immediate point, being able to have sufficient resources. And our goal at that point would be self-sufficiency. We want to make sure that, okay, as someone's coming in, we want to get you housed and then get you to self-sufficiency or the supporting services that you need. So we wouldn't stop, just our focus would be a much more pleasant focus, and a different goal in mind at that point, not just getting housing, but maintaining that housing.
In the gap,
Yes.
where there's that vacuum, where individuals are no longer contributing. There was a gap now with where you place your emphasis, your heart work. That's the place of home. That's the place of homelessness for us. That little sliver right there, where do I now go? Where do I find home? Thank you.
You have another check. You have another.
A world where we are all housed means we would have the power to determine the fates of our communities. No longer would we be at the whim of billionaires to see, eat, and meet our basic needs. The sky is the limit when we are free from the current threat of destitution any day. Thank you, Grace. Definitely a part of our, that gold standard. Anyone else?
Nope. Sorry, go ahead.
Being housed can be very hard. Lots of support is needed. I agree with Avina's comment that there is much work to do when people are housed. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so, Dr. Battle, I just wanted to say, I think it was helpful when there was a resetting of I started with two scenarios, right? There's the scenario of what happens if that I wrote down, like if we willfully ignore people's pain, people's suffering, people's plight. And then I got into the time about, well, what would that mean if people were housed in a housing inventory of a woman? So one of the things that this brought me to light to answer some of these questions. I said that the experience for people being touched by street outreach would be of surprise and delight. which is what I think street outreach is intended to provide in an ideal place, is, hey, what if this situation could change and we actually got this place down the road and you could be in it in a couple days? How does that sound? What a thrill. I thought about what my work at the city would be like. I thought about how my work would be more innovative. That there would be, as I wrote it down, there'd be housing models to play with. And this part was fun. So when you talk about housing models, like, what if we had housing models that incorporated daycares in addition to senior living centers? What if we had housing models that met accessibility needs for people with resources? What if we built out spaces for companion animals? What if we built out co-housing for people who wanted to choose into that model that didn't require above or unreasonable levels of income to get there, right? And I thought that to myself that, I don't know if anybody else has ever felt this, but putting in amenities like that with housing would be like grocery shopping the week before a holiday. Oh, hey, I actually need cranberries because we're going to make this. Like, we get to make all our fun things before the holidays for people who like to share food. I thought about how that experience of making communities for people could be delightful.
Thank you.
Such a-
Two thoughts. One, I'm sort of reminded of a game that we played as teenagers. I don't know if anybody ever played this, Bigger or Better, where you start out either as individuals or small teams, and everybody starts with a paperclip. And you're sort of let loose in a neighborhood. You take that paperclip and you go to knocking on doors, and I got a paperclip. Do you have something bigger or better? And somebody's like, oh, I'll give you a quarter. And then you take the quarter and you go to the next house. And it's sort of like, and then at the end of a certain period of time, everybody comes back to the beginning and sees who comes back with the bigger or betterest, best thing. And, people come back with giant stuffed animals that was junk to somebody, but that quarter meant more to them than that giant stuffed animal. So looking at this sort of as a bigger or better type thing, is you get to the point where it's like, okay, we did this. Now it's bigger or better than solving this problem. Then back to, I think David hit, the crux of the issue is not necessarily tents, pallet homes, safe parking, but the crux of the matter is when you're unsheltered, where do you go when there is nowhere to go because there is no defined space? So perhaps the real question that needs to be answered is, where is the space? Not with what goes in that space right now, but where is that space where you can go when you're told, I can't go here, I can't go here. Where can I go? I don't know. So perhaps the bigger question that needs to be answered is, where is that space? Identifying that space then turns into the bigger or better of what goes in the space to meet the needs. And that space may be occupied by a variety of things to meet a variety of needs. There may be somebody who's more comfortable in a tent, somebody more comfortable in a car, somebody more comfortable in an apartment, somebody more comfortable in a pallet home. And there's a wide range of things, but there is a space where people can go and feel like, oh, this is a safe place to be versus where I'm told I cannot be. And those are my couple thoughts.
I hear you. I also hear the how do I get there? The transportation piece, the navigation piece.
And we, just a clarification.
Okay, hi, I'm not sure if I'm understanding this, friend, the scope of the question. Are we imagining what directly happens if we stop providing tents, i.e. there are fewer tents and more difficult to provide? So let me finish reading first. And there are fewer tents and more difficult to provide a temporary measure before we reach our long-term solution to homelessness. And we can read it. Okay, so Rand, what I asked, I'm sorry if you didn't hear, I want you all to imagine what happens to you think about you for a moment. When we did the first exercise, we had a lot of empaths in the room, a lot of givers in the room. And I wanted to just get to the part where we think about what does this do to me and my purpose? And how do you reorient yourself? Should the ideal, the gold standard, be established?
Because I'm on one call, and so I get calls from residents or concerns about the cameras, I work very closely with yes, part with many departments. And I can share with you, and I appreciate this kind of utopian thought, but I want to keep us in kind of a real environment too, because the goal is to get people off the streets. But we have people who, we want to get them off the streets, but I talk to people who say, hey, I can't ever get DHA on the phone. Well, I share with them, they can't staff enough people to help you because they have a 5-year waiting list. So when you start to move this from being homeless to housing, and then I get calls from folks that are in housing, be it the seniors or be it the folks who are, or be it that single mom who says, I have mold, I have this, I have that. So that they're off the streets and very appreciative, but now they're dealing with a different dilemma. So I just want to make sure we level set the conversation to be that someone said earlier, it's continuous. To get to what you're talking about is beyond getting off the streets and then getting into housing, which, I get quite a few calls about the housing and and you see it even in the news about the housing. And so then you got to get beyond that. And so for me and Kevin in General Services, the person shifts, but a lot of the issues remain. The good news is I'm off the street. The other news is I might go back to the streets. I mean, my own brother, who's dead and gone now, he was homeless at one point in time. And he was put into a place. And he went back to the streets because he thought it was safer than the place he had been put into. So we got to think this all the way through to not just be, we can celebrate we got them off the streets because it becomes a different dilemma when they move into a place that they can't quite deal with because they call me, I call NIS, or NIS and I have called Kevin. And so it doesn't, so when you say, well, we wouldn't have a place of homelessness until you can fix the problem pretty much all the way through. The domino just moves to another domino. It doesn't necessarily fix the true issue.
Okay. The utopian ideal is to get you away from thinking about the homeless, the unhoused. It's not utopian we're focusing on, it's you. It's the hardest thing to do, to focus on ourselves and what happens to our purpose. What happens to us? If, let's say, we remove the challenges, right? We want to get to the core of what drives us, right? So it's not a utopian ideal, it is a hypothetical solution that gets us now in moments to just focus on ourselves and what is it that motivates us? What happens if all of these things were, all the issues were solved, right? So again, not to get too far into the weeds, I heard you, I hear you, I consider everything that you've said, and no matter where we are, there will be challenges, in every home, we have our challenges. It's not a pie in the sky, solution. I think that what I'm trying to get you all to think and focus on is you, and knowing that regardless of what happens and let me rephrase that. Regardless of what is established out of your feedback and your input and your support to establishing the current policy, regardless of what happens with that, we are going to be the one to drive that, okay? So we have to consider, and the challenge is when we're dealing with individuals who are givers, we want to make sure that you're okay as well as transitions happen. And as we go into this planning session, this development, this work block, this work session, that we are able to not only consider the individuals that are directly impacted, as we formulate, however it's formulated when we get to that point, policy, but you're also thinking about yourself. And there's nothing wrong with thinking about yourself. There's nothing offensive about thinking about yourself and what really happens, and really reflect on that. And I remember going back to my original point, when you wake up in the morning, I know I jumped up this morning. Actually, I didn't see that. I did. 3 hours, I get it done. This gave me a purpose. I mean, just, I would do it even if I wasn't being paid for it, and I'm not being paid. But it's what gets me up, you know? And just to be able to be a part of this process and do my little bit is purposeful. It's meaningful. It's impactful to me. And I think oftentimes we don't give ourselves time to reflect on the depth of the service that we provide and what it does for us. Okay? So I think, anybody else? Chelsea says I have to head out, but thank you everyone for this conversation. It's important, and I'm grateful for all of your work. And for everything. Okay. All right. So now, what we'd like to do, I really, the next, you have the copies? 'Cause we
They have them?
Oh, you already have them. So
Yeah.
because we have already summarized the poll responses, I want you. Perfect, okay. So you'll get to page 14, I believe 15.
Okay, I can go through it. Okay.
After the poll responses, we're gonna get to pages 14, 15. And as you see in the poll responses, there are subheadings. And I'd like for you all within your groups to read through those responses. And feel free to write on the document. Because if you need an extra document to write on, I'd like for you to hand that in. Go through the responses. And I'd like for you, and we'll come around as well, generate quadrants, right? Which category, you know, each, the feedback falls under. And you can just write Q1, Q2, Q3, you can determine the quadrant, okay? And each one, and then what you can do is pull from each. Let me make sure I'm explaining this correctly. Are you able to pull up?
Mhm.
Okay.
I just shared with them.
I'm gonna be on page 15, okay? So we have, and then there's page 14, but I'm gonna do 15 because that's what I had in my hand. So there's government responsibility, current situation, proposed solutions, legal and ethical consideration, right? So
Page 15.
let's use these 4 categories under number 3. And I'd like for you, and if you need to develop 2 more, feel free to do that. But if you can then circle, go to each one and put Q1, Q2, so government responsibility is Q1, Current situation is Q2, proposed solutions is Q3, legal and ethical considerations, Q4, right? So, does that make sense? We're in 15. Page 15.
Yep.
Yeah? Yes. So we're gonna use those 4 categories to classify the others. So as you go through each, number 3, number 4, what I'd like for you to do is to choose one of those quadrants to apply to each of the others. And if you have an additional one that's not in those 4, you can choose 2 more. So you can just add 2 more categories. And then
These
I
four
give
bold
that for each
headings.
one. There are,
Two.
I think 19, it should be 19. If you would like to, your number to read through to
So
ensure
she's
that
talking about
we have
subsequent
captured
pages.
everything that you
There's
said,
content.
and
And
that
she wants to
email that was
start
sent.
moving. Let the
Again,
group-
this is strictly from email, there were 19.
The comment into four
And this is what we're
categories.
gonna use to
Yeah.
later compile and then start working draft.
So what do you want the people online?
So I sent them the document.
So they have this.
I just sent them that. So they can do it.
Oh, I couldn't do it.
What did you eat? What did you eat real quick? Have a little more of the food or no?
So.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's, so now they have it, so they can circle and do things as well. You turn the mic off. Yes.
So when we go back, all of
So I hope people get it. Like take these 4 bolded categories: government responsibility, current situation, proposed solutions, and legal and ethical considerations, and apply it to the content that you see, like number 4, and on the rest of these pages, apply it to that. Okay? I hope people, because my mic is open. My microphone is open, so I was talking to them. I hope. Can't hear what's going on. Okay.
Hi, there is chatter on this. Someone needs to mute themselves. I hear people talking in the background about their mic being open. So can everyone please mute themselves except the presenters, please? Thank you.
I was explaining that my mic was open. Could you hear the instructions that you were being given for this exercise?
No, we could not hear the instructions.
Okay. Were you all able to pull the document up from the link that was provided in the chat?
I'm getting it's asking me to log in when I
Okay.
click that link.
Let me redo that, okay?
Thank you.
But she said- They need the instructions for this.
Did you email?
Mhm.
This.
I'm working on that now.
They don't, they can't say that.
Good morning again. Do you all have the document? Can you see the document?
We sure can. Is there, what are we looking at as a group at the moment?
Okay, so if you will go down to page 14 for everyone, we'd like to be able to put you in 2 breakout rooms so that you can work together on it. But right now, she wants to give you full instructions before you go to a breakout room.
Okay, thank you.
Stephen, Dean, and Anise, are you having trouble joining the room?
Okay, there's Steve.
Hi, Dean and Anise, are you having difficulty joining the room?
Yeah, thanks. Not now. I guess I mean, you know. I mean, it's voluntary.
Can't hear. You're gonna. Okay, they'll
Close. They're coming back. They're coming back. Okay, you're the only one that's not. You're back.
Like us to get to some working document, how we would like to see that go. We might be a bit ambitious in that, but I feel like, we've had this challenge for, since September, it's been something that has been looked at, and I think that we are well overdue for providing some kind of guidance to, our community at large about how we will, humanely continue to try to serve folks, who are unhoused in Durham. And so here is our timeline. So today, February 5th, we're reviewing and summarizing, and this task that you guys did today is gonna help Dr. Battle develop the beginnings of a working draft. On February 7th, we will present an update to the policy, the HSAC Executive Committee, which is this Friday. On February 10th, we hope to have the beginnings of an actual document to present in policy and planning. And we will plan to continue to work to finalize that draft. But what we decided today was that we really wanted to have an opportunity to come back, at least in Zoom format, to have a presentation of that final working draft, write-up, to share with this group prior to us presenting it to HSAC. To vet it, to think about things maybe that we left out, so that we can try to get it to HSAC at a most complete state as it can be, so that we can move forward and hopefully get something, approved, and existing, knowing that it will be a evolving document. I don't know if anybody has any questions or concerns. I especially, not to like make anybody else, not seem important, I want to thank our Durham One Call person and our general, City of Durham General Services, staff person for being here today, kind of sharing, their experience from a side that we don't really always get an opportunity to see. I think, in doing this work, we need to look at it from all perspectives. So I do especially thank and hope they will continue to be a part of informing the homeless continuum, at large, on the things they see, the challenges they're having, so that we can respond to those in real time. And really truly create a partnership in how we serve our unhoused neighbors, from, the direct service provider, the manager, and the people, working in our community as well, who sometimes have to do and things like blue tents and things like that when they don't necessarily want to, but because they have to. And so, without further ado, I would just again, thank you for attending, and if there are any questions, I can attempt to answer some right now. So does somebody?
Shrita, what would be the relative time when you think about that second meeting to prior to each other? Would you think of the 17th to 21st?
So Fridays are actually the best day for our facility. So the date that we were looking at is the 21st. February the 21st, and it'll probably be in this 10 to 12 time frame. I don't know if you need an hour, 90 minutes, or 2 hours, an hour. So be looking out for communication that will go out for a special meeting for policy and planning, and those all invested in our 10 distribution policy draft. We'll see you at that time.
We have 1 hour.
Their ideal timeline, you think you will have something ready for
I
us?
think,
What's the 21st?
18.
Just 3 days, a good timeline for guys, for you all to review.
Back up another HSAC, and that's for that same time. So. So if it's on the 21st, and the HSAC meeting on the 26th, you want to give HSAC a few days to review that document.
Yeah, so that meeting's on the 21st. By the following.
Well, is this presentation of the document for
Yeah.
HSAC meeting? That doesn't mean.
Exactly.
It doesn't.
For a vote, right?
We have in preparation for policy adoption, that's like the hope. But we also know that you know, our timeline doesn't always line up in the ideal way. This, as I said, was very ambitious, but I feel like this, the current situation that we're in warrants us to move faster because it's taken us so long to get here. And I wish we could have been here sooner, but we didn't get here. Yeah, so we'll give it to me, get it to us on the 18th, we'll get it out to you guys in preparation for the 21st. Are you saying that was the HSAT we needed at least by Monday?
It depends on the feedback and what needs to be done, right? So.
But I think we can share the workings of the document even if it's not ready, but I would like for us to be closer to finish than not. Just because it's gone on way too long.
I think it's just.
Which is why we want you guys to this.
It's perfectly fine because there's a couple of us that may not be available. But if we get it on the 18th.
And then, do you want to get active feedback prior to? So if anybody has any comments or concerns, because I think I sent a response to somebody, via email before this meeting. You need to title it, 10 distribution work session follow-up and send it to the Durham Opening Door site. And Keisha will make sure that we get those, communications so that we can include those insights and concerns as well. Thank y'all.